couple of weeks back, right? And I think this is something that you guys need to go and watch, right? You guys need to watch this. Okay, it pretty much cover what you guys need to do when you guys first join the server, what are the things that you guys need to look out for, and all that. All right, so just make sure to check this. Okay, make sure to check this, and if you have any questions after, you can always open a support ticket and then ask us for help. Okay, but for now, I'm just here to answer some questions, whether you guys have anything. Remember, anything can be, right? If you have any questions regarding right now how to use the server and whatnot, you can just ask. All right, I'll still guide you guys around. But just let me log into my broker for a bit. Because this video over here that I did, right? It shows you guys the importance. Okay, this one. It shows you guys the importance of having a good broker. And I'm talking about brokers that allows day trading. All right. A lot of you guys still use Robinhood. That is not good when it comes to trading penny stocks. When it comes to trading small caps, right? Not Robinhood isn't great. If you're swinging, then it's fine. But for me specifically, I focus more on momentum trading, right? So it's not impossible, but you really just need a good trading broker. Either use Thinkorswim, right? No, to summarize, in the States, either use Thinkorswim, which have the active trader function. If not, use Webull, which have the turbo trader function, right? All these two setups over here allows you guys to kind of trade better, execute better. And I'll show you guys an example in this video over here. So again, go to my channel, click on this pin messages over here, right? Just click on jump, whatever. If you're on your phone, I think the setup's a little bit different, but just click on this. It should link you to this message over here. Watch this video. All right, it's an hour long. So, you have a lot of time right now during the weekends to go through it. Okay, so anyway, while you guys are typing out questions, MCVT for me, I still have some shares left from last week, right? Not a whole lot. I did scale a lot out at 6 plus. Okay, and then I left like a few just for the after hours move, right? I think during the end of day call, I even told you guys this. I said, you bet your ass I'm gonna hold this for whatever, because we're at least according to me, we're all-time highs, but it's not true, by the way, right? It's not true. All right, the chart for Thinkorswim is just glitched out. But it's a very strong after hours mover over here. Low floater, no news though, but very nice volume for the day, or 100 million shares we traded. So yeah, we got a very nice move. Now I'll aim for the rest for $15 to $20. All right, no reason to sell everything. I always tell you guys, if the trend doesn't break down, there is no reason to sell everything. I took most of my profit on this pop over here, left like 20, 30%, right? Price went down. I don't have to worry about it because we're still holding on to EMAs. And then after hours came, I took more out over here. Price went down. Again, nothing to worry about. Again, we still have the 200 EMA, right? And $6 is way above, the entries that we have. And the squeeze move happened. And, it's good, right? So this is what I still have holding on to the next week of remaining shares, right? Let's see what happens on Monday, whether we get a gapper move for 15 to 20. SMX, I still have some as well. Again, same thing. Right, we're in at 163 over here. Nice move to 242 on Friday. Structure never broke down. The Genius Act pretty much endorsed this technology over here, right? So we might see more in the next coming days, but it all depends on volume, right? If we lose 170, I'll close out the rest of my position to keep it green. And LIDR, again, still holding on to this. The 20-minute trend, as I mentioned, is still intact, right? They have earnings on 31st, which is the end of next week, right? So we might see, sorry, not the end of this week, the Thursday, right, by the end of the month, right? So we might still see some maybe earnings run up and stuff. I would say that, okay, when I am holding something for an earnings run up, earnings to me is always 50-50. All right. So when I'm holding something for earnings right now, I'm hoping that it stays above this level so that I have buffer to sit through the earnings. Because when earnings drops, this price can either just shoot up quick or shoot down quick, right? Earnings is always 50-50. So I want to have some buffer sitting inside this position before the earnings actually drops so that I'll actually be able to capitalize on it. I can safely sit through it. If you don't have any, imagine if you don't have a position, right? Adding before the earnings, and then imagine the earnings is bad, it's just dump. You'll be taking a huge loss. But for now, because last week we added this around 390s, sorry, no 420s, right? Price went all the way up to 5+, took some profits. Played around dips, as I told you guys as well. I have a stop loss on 390, 380. It's been pretty good. We have some profits to buffer, but I do hope that we can stay a little bit better, right? If let's say earnings over here is around like 410, 420, might be a little bit risky, because at least if it's like 5+, right? Imagine for example, if it's 5+, if it does see the earnings drop, and it's not great. At least if it's 5+, if it drops down to 4+, there's still time for us to react, right? I mean, there's still buffer. But if it's at 420, the buffer isn't great. Yeah. IC I'm also still in on this, and I told you guys stop loss is gonna be under $1. We never lost that, right? So still sitting at over here. Let's just see what's up. Okay, this one obviously is a little bit riskier as after this action happened over here. So yeah, okay. So let's so these are the 4 positions I'm still holding. ITL full position, not full, okay, full position but small size because of the risk. Remaining shares on LIDR, remaining shares on MCVT, and remaining shares on SMAX. Okay, all right. So let's look at some questions. Sorry. So as Chris mentioned, you mentioned that rather than remembering all bullish patterns, pick a few that you can perfect. Do you have a few you can recommend? Yeah. So there are a lot of different patterns in the market. Right, there are a lot of different patterns in the market. For me, I like to as much as I can identify, all right, something that's simple. It's very easy to execute as well. I like to identify descending triangle patterns and ascending triangle patterns, right? Like that. So over here you have your descending triangle pattern, okay, where the price trades like this. Oh shit. Okay, one. Where the price may trade like this, right? It's on the downtrend, okay, but you know where the support is at, right? And then either it's gonna break out and go, or it's gonna break down. All right, so this one the risk was it's not the worst. Or ascending triangle pattern where you have the price going up like this, right? And then you wait for either the breakout to happen. If not, price breaks the trend and you go down. That's one of the few patterns I like to trade. Ascending and descending triangle patterns. The other one I like to trade is cup and handle. All right, this is really the setup for MCVT for the 5-minute chart. I'm going to show you guys this. Okay, not even 5 minutes, even 20 minutes. You can see, right? You have a cup over here being formed, and then you also have a flag pattern forming over here. But at the end of the day, it's a cup and handle setup. Let me show you guys this. Okay, so so over here you can see that there is a flag pattern forming. Right, you have the body of the flag over here, right, and then you have a flag pattern form. Right. But in the overall sense of things, you always want to incorporate as much price change as you can. You have a cup and a handle. And then once you broke up from the handle, right, broke the 460 key level, we just never look back. Oops. No. Those are what I like to trade, right? There are some patterns like falling wedge, rising wedge and stuff. I usually don't touch those, right? I do look at them sometimes, but I find myself finding ascending, descending triangle patterns more. Right? These patterns over here, I don't really trade them as much. I think it's good to know, but I usually don't trade them as much. When you're looking for sympathy, okay, so another question. When you're looking for sympathy plays, like for example, when TDN found VLCN, because it was a sympathy play from BMNR, I think. How do you find those? Is there a certain scanner you use? I don't think VLCN was a sympathy from BMNR though. When was this? When was this over here? I don't think VLCN was a sympathy of BMNR. You can't say that it was a sympathy of BMNR. I mean, Why is it a sympathy of it? Did TDN say why it was a sympathy? Did he explain? Because to me, this is not a sympathy. It's completely different sectors and industry. There's no way this is a sympathy of BMNR. Sure, right? Price. Oh, just the one? No, 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 no. Recently, right? Yeah, that's right. Sure, price did go all the way from $9 to $58 in after hour. I mean, in pre-market on the same day, but this move happened over here because it dropped news, right? The Bitcoin treasury, the treasury news over here, which causes a spike. But and after it dropped the news, then you can say this is a sympathy. Okay, all right, it's fine. But before that, I don't think VLCN was running on any sort of catalyst, right? There was no catalyst over here, and if we look at the structure for VLCN, this is consumer cyclical auto manufacturers, right? BMNR is completely different. It's financial capital markets, so it's not a sympathy at all. If you're telling me that this is if it's a sympathy by PR, okay, then fine. But then again, VLCN didn't make the move, or at least this move for VLCN when it went from $9 to $31. There was no news over here. It was just very random volume price action. That's it. The only time it dropped the PR was during this candle at 8:55. I mean the candle of 8:55 and 5 minute. Then this is where you can start to say that this is a sympathy because they have like the similar news. But before that, this action from 9:30 something, there was no explanation for this. There was no news over here. All right, it was just a volume run. You can't say that this is sympathy for BMNR. There's no reason to call it sympathy. After this, fine. But before this, no reason to. So maybe he knows something I don't, but based on what I know, I don't think VLCN was a sympathy to BMNR prior to the news. There was no reason to. Even if you talk about SBET, right? Let me see, SBET. SBET's about gaming, you see? SBET's about gaming, right? But because of the ETH Treasury news for SBET, price went all the way up from $3 to 120. And because of this cemented itself as a Ethereum Treasury type of theme. So when BMNR had the same news, right, then you could say that this is a sympathy of SBET, which I did tell you guys back then before the run. I told you guys that this might be SBET 2.0. But if let's say BMNR doesn't have the same news, and this is just moving by itself, right? Then this is just moving by itself. There is no sympathy over here. It's completely different health industry, completely different sectors. Same thing for VLCN. If you're telling me that VLCN is a sympathy of BMNR after this news drop, okay, fine. It's a sympathy of BMNR, it's a sympathy of SBET. But then there was no trading opportunity at all after, it just pretty much died. So I do believe that when you want to find sympathies, you want to find it so that you can actually capitalize on it. But there was no capital. I mean, you can't capitalize on this at all. So I don't know if TDN said this was a sympathy before the news drop, then he probably knows something I don't. But based on what I know, this wasn't a sympathy of BMNR until the news drop. But even when the news dropped, it didn't provide much of any sympathy. Right? You can see it didn't provide much of any opportunities over here for us. But how do you all find those sympathies and stuff? It's not scanners, it's experience in the market. You see, right now, Alan, let me ask you this, right? If I ask you what is the sympathy from BMNR, can you answer me? You can, because you have experienced this, right? If I tell you what is the sympathy for BMNR, you're gonna tell me, oh, VLC and SBET, right? No scanners are gonna tell you that, right? It's experience. Now, if you ask me what is the sympathy of MVCT, my answer to you is I don't know. There isn't any. I'm sorry, MCVT. My answer to you is I don't know. There isn't any, right? Because all these are just running by itself. But if you ask me what is the sympathy for VLCN, I could tell you, hey, it could be BMNR, it could be SBET, right? Because they did cement themselves as Ethereum Treasury companies, right? Even though they are different sectors, what ties them together is the Ethereum Treasury strategy that they have. Now, if I ask you this, right? What is the sympathy for DNUT? Sorry, yeah. What is the sympathy for Krispy Kreme? I mean, from here you guys can answer me, right? GoPro, right? KSS, open. Because these are triggers that run together and they're the reason why things are running. You see? But you see, do scanners tell you about this? No. Right? You can only really know about sympathies after you traded them before, right? And then you notice that the price action kind of has that connection to each other. And of course, TDM would know because, again, context, right? I need the context. I don't know when he said, if he said VLCN is a sympathy of BMNR after the news drops, fine. But before that, there was no reason to call VLCN a sympathy of BMNR because they would, as I showed you, they're completely different sectors, completely different industry. Okay, yeah, but it has to come from experience. Like, you see, I mean, Alan, I'm pretty sure you know right now. If I ask you what is the sympathy for GoPro, you can tell me it's Krispy Kreme. You can tell me it's KSS because these are the meme bundle, right? They're sympathies of each other. But it comes with experience. This one, you need to have experience. You need to trade the market long enough to know what runs. Right now, if I ask you, Alan, right, what is the sympathy for HUSA? HUSA. It's an oiler name. You know that. Or anyone of you guys over here, what is the sympathy for HUSA? HUSA. Anyone? Anyone knows what's the sympathy of HUSA? Like what when HUSA runs, what runs with it? Do you guys know? Anyone over here? Okay, oil, but what oil tickers? What oil tickers? Do you guys know? If you guys have been trading recently, right? Maybe in a couple of months ago, you guys should know what is the sympathy. What are the tickers? See, if I say USA, Indonesian energy, you know that Indo is a potential sympathy, right? USAC is a potential sympathy, right? You guys know that Marx is a potential sympathy, right? You have also IMPP, you can consider one, and then there were some other tickers as well. There's 9, right? You see, all these are potential sympathies that you can play when there is energy run. I mean, oil names and war happening, right? So that you know, right? It's capped at the back of your head right now. Right now, you know. Right, but when you first start trading, of course, right, you wouldn't be able to. Henry, I'm gonna answer your question later, but that's very important. But when you first start trading, obviously you wouldn't know that these are sympathies. When I first started trading, let me share with you guys. When someone said this is a sympathy, right? ABC is a sympathy of DCE. I'm sorry, DEF. I was like, damn, why is a stock having sympathy for another stock? What does that mean? I literally had that thought. I was like, what does sympathy means? Like, what do you mean by sympathy? Why is a stock, having sympathy for another stock? Like, what the fuck is this? I didn't know it meant like they're connected. Like, if one runs, the other one should follow. I didn't know that. Right? So, but yeah, it comes with experience where you know, right? You can build the experience and you know what runs and what doesn't run. Okay? So Zhao Bo Fan, I've read the earlier video that you show how to quickly place the order through active trader, buy, ask, sell, bid. What is the way you set up stop loss and think or swim? Since the day trade usually happens in 3 seconds, it seems very important to set up stop loss quickly and think or swim. Nope. Why? Why do you have to set up stop loss and think or swim when you can manually just watch the position and sell your position away whenever you need to? Why do you have to set up stop loss? Okay, you set up stop loss if you cannot focus, right? If you have to step away and you cannot focus, then you set up a stop loss. That's fine. But if you are trading and you're actively trading in a position, right? Let's say you have 500 shares left. Okay, I'll show you one example over here. All right, we'll take it hypothetically, right? Let's say you have 500 shares over here left. Okay, hold on one second. Let it buffer first. All right, let's say you have 500 shares. Okay, you can see how fast it is, right? This is an active trader. Very quick execution. And then let's say, on the same time when you buy it, this thing drops. Why can't you just press sell the bid and close your position? Why do you have to set up stop loss? Do you understand? Why do you have to set up stop loss? You don't have to. You're supposed to watch the position quickly so that when you're in and you see it dropping quick, right? And you're supposed to be watching it, you can immediately just sell your position. Why do you have to set up stop loss? And plus, I did say this many times before, you do not want to set up stop loss because let's say this is your support. if price goes down and the candle never closes and it wicks up, right? It's gonna form a candle like this. Okay? And then you're gonna get and then the price is gonna go up, right? What's gonna happen is that you're gonna get your stop loss triggered because you set your stop loss and then the price goes up. Why would you want to do that to yourself? I'd say this before, right? Only set a stop loss if you have, for me, only set a stop loss if you only have runners left, right? Like for me, like right now MCVT, I was in around like $5 set for 480s, 490s, right? $5. And now I have like runners left. Now I can set my stop loss because MCVT I was in at 480s, 490s, and then this thing right now is like 12. I mean, I have more than enough buffer to just set my stop loss and let this thing do its thing. But if I'm just still trading it, right? If it's way too close to profit, then everything I'm watching on the chart itself. You see, like there is no need for me to set stop loss. Why should you set stop loss? I should watch it manually myself, and then I should manage it accordingly. If I see a sudden drop, right, and it sells off very hard, sell a bit. Or if it gets too hard to fill with a lot of shares, sell market, close everything. This is much quicker than you setting a stop loss. I'll tell you for sure, and you don't have to get worried about getting wicked out. Do you understand? About the stop loss part? Do you understand about the stop loss part, Zhao Po?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So thank you for your answers. So my actual question is when you are in a win trade and you
Yeah.
want to ride the trend, you mentioned several times in the chat. So at that circumstance, you want to set up like actually not take like literally a stop loss, it's a stop win. How you handle that? How do you set up in a single swim?
Stop when do you mean like a trading stop loss?
Yeah, sort of.
So basically as the price goes up, your stop loss gets raised up, is it?
Yeah.
So personally for me, I don't use that, right? I don't ever use that, right? But I think you can find. Let me see here, because I've never ever used a trading stop loss before. I'll be honest with you, right? I've never really used a trading stop loss before. So I probably need to get back to you on that. But for me, what I do is I'll just set a stop loss at a particular level, right? So let's say for example, let's say we're up a lot already, right? And I trim maybe I trim like 80% of my position, so I only have like 100 shares left. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just set my stop loss for my 100 shares at a particular level, right? Stop. Never use stop limit, guys. Always use stop. Okay, always use stop. I'll set it at a particular level, maybe somewhere that's above my entry. My entry is 82. Right. I can't show you guys exactly how it is right now because the price is not moving. But I'll probably set my stop loss at 77 cents for my remaining 100 shares. Maybe let's say this thing's at 1 plus right now. Okay, so it'll look like this, right? It'll look like this on the active trader chart. Okay. And let's say right now as this thing goes up, right? I just leave it. Okay, if I want to sell my position, I have to remove this. Okay, and then I have to sell my position, and I'll reset the stop loss again. Or what I can do is I can click on this and drag it up, right, to increase my stop loss. So you don't really have to add it again. You can just click on this and drag it around to play around with your stop loss. That's what I do. Trading, I don't really use it, right? Because sometimes, okay, I'll tell you why. For me, I always want to be in control of my own trades as much as I can. If MCVT over here, I would say that if you set a trading stop loss, I'm pretty sure you might get stopped out somewhere here or somewhere here before the move actually happened. But as I mentioned to you, price was staying above all EMAs, right? First off, and even if this is at $6, you have more than enough buffer, right? To be honest, there was no need for you guys to get out, but your trading stop loss might trigger you because you're not actively watching it, right? If you set a proper stop loss, or rather a set stop loss, for me it was just like I'm just gonna set it at 5 because right now it's still a little bit too close for comfort. Even if it's like 690, this ticker has a lot of range, right? Because this ticker just made a move from 186 to $4, and then right now it's 6 plus. So a 1 plus positive move to the upside from my entry, I don't feel safe. But at $12, now I feel safe as hell. Now I can just set my stop loss at 868, 850. I can just let it do its own thing. Because even if I set my stop loss at 868, 850, my entry is, remember, 480. This is super stress-free right now. Right, but you see, if you set a trading stop, right, you might get stopped out and then the move actually happen again. You know what I mean? Which is why I don't really like trading stop, because it might stop you out before the move actually moves. But sometimes, when price goes down like this, it doesn't mean that the trend is broken. Maybe the current trend over here is broken, but the overall trend is actually still holding on. Right? Maybe the smaller area trend is broken, but the overall trend, right, maybe it's still actually holding on. So that's the reason why I don't like to use trading stop loss. Okay, but if you really want to do it, I do not know. I've never used it before. I have to go and check it and see what's up. But yeah, I've never really used trading stop losses. I don't like using it. Okay, you see here. Yeah, yeah. So that's that. Okay. But if you want to set a stop, always use stop instead of stop limit. Okay. Let me just check for a bit. Right. I've never really used trading stop loss and shit. I think so. So I would say you probably would you can probably just do this. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? You click a trail stop. I would still say trail stop instead of trail stop limit, right? Still trail stop, right? And then you can mark based on, what is the move you want, right? The percentage move that you want. You can So you can just change it based on the percentage move that you want, right? A mark is fine. Mark is fine. No, don't do us, do bit, right? But mark is fine. But yeah, this is what you can do, right? But I never ever touched all this stuff here. I just use this for. I know I use market limit stop. That's it. I don't even use stop limit, right? So stop limit will what the disadvantage of stop limit is. Let's say for example you set a stop loss at 770, for example, right? And then the price just shoots below 770. You think that you got a stop loss put over there, a stop limit is not gonna execute. So you think that you have a stop loss, but yes, you do have a stop loss, but it didn't execute and price continues to go down. You go back to your account like, damn, what the fuck? Why am I still in? And I'm taking a huge loss right now. Or maybe not huge loss, but you just gave back all your profits. And that doesn't feel good. Okay, yeah. So that's how I do it, right? I can't say for sure. If you feel like a trading stop works for you, go ahead. Experiment with it, go ahead. But for me, I don't ever use a trading stop loss. All right, I just manually watch the position. If not, I have the physical stop loss set, and then as it goes up, I just raise the stop loss up together. But then again, it doesn't work in after hours. So when after hours happens, I have to just watch it a little bit more. Which is why I couldn't really sleep when I was over here, right? So, but then when I saw it move, this is where, okay, you know what? I can finally sleep. There's enough buffer. Right, quick technical question on Weibo or IB, how to use ladder orders to sell at the top of the upper wick of the candlestick. This is another thing. I don't use ladder as well. I really just watch it and then I'll manage it all accordingly myself. But I think if you want to use the ladder, you can just click on it and then the depending on what you use, right? Because I don't use the ladder for IB, or I rarely use Weibo. For IB, I use the ladder. I just watch the price and then I just sell it. Trying to sell at the top of the upper wick is not usually going to happen. All right. I sometimes when I tell you guys that, hey, you know what, this is hitting new high day and stuff. I mean, before that, I'm really trimming some. I'm just updating you guys that it's at the new high day. All right. So please trim. But you guys should still be watching the position yourself. You know what I mean? Because it's a momentum day trade, right? It takes time for me to type it out that this thing's hitting new highs. But for you guys see it firsthand. You guys should be more than ready to close the position. Right? Not close the position, but take some profits out. Right? New highs is always a great feat to have, I would say. Right? Always a great feat to have. So if you're treating the EMA as a support level to make sure when to stop loss for aiming for a good exit point, you are looking at resistance. But how do you determine that? Yes, from past trends, but are you using yes, I'm using both. Psychological level is one, but also from past trends. But sometimes it's not really just that, right? Past trends or whatever. Because I mean, if you look at the move for if you look at the move for MCVT, right? My stop loss is supposedly under 460. But this thing made such a massive move to 6 plus. I have to take profits, like it doesn't make sense for me to not take it. And it moves so quick, right? So you cannot just fully justify some, the thing about small caps is this, right? They have the ability to do crazy shit. Even what you see, this ticker doesn't have juice, but they have the ability to do crazy stuff. So if the volume is good, if the flow is small, if the daily average is low, there's potential for explosive moves. And you can just let it ride as long as the trend doesn't break down. I'm not even talking about the EMAs right here. Maybe on the bigger time frame is holding on. But I am looking for past resistance levels. I wouldn't say that I completely use the resistance levels as profit scaling area, but it's good for me to know that hey, this is a resistance level on the daily chart. If price breaks over this, there's a high chance that we could score it. We might squeeze a little bit. And obviously the psychological numbers as well, like $5, $1, right? $10, 375 type of stuff. Okay? It's not fully, there's no hard and fast rule to it. All right. It really is depending on the market conditions and stuff. I mean, if you really trade on the hard and fast rule, there's no way you would have been able to write this at $13. I'll tell you guys that for sure. All right. This would have been a great, I mean, this itself is already a good trade risk reward wise because you're risking around 40 cents per share from here, right? Based on the breakout strategy, you're risking around 40 cents a share. And then over here, this thing just immediately halted up and went up to like 570. And then if let's say you have no time to sell it, this thing went all the way to 630. So you risked 40 cents a share and you got a $1, let's say 120 cents move, right? So this is a 1 to 3 restore ratio in just 2 minutes. I would say that's pretty damn good, I would say that's pretty damn good. All right. You can try, okay, the initial move you can definitely still try to have that, but so because the thing about small caps is that there is a lot of them running every single time, every single day, right? And then you get stuff like volume rotation happening. It's very difficult to try to really stick to a concrete. You got to be fluid, basically, right? You got to be fluid. Don't stay so rigid about it. But yes, past resistance levels to know what I'm up against, and then psychological level as well. I think all these are very important for you to know about, right? Not even just like to scale, but just to know, like, hey, all right, I'm hitting resistance over here. If price breaks through this, I'm more than ready to close my position. All right, I can be ready to close my position, or if I see here rejection, maybe I don't like it as much anymore. Stuff like that. Right. How to become a pro in trading from reading? Ali, honestly, the best way for you to become good at trading, right, is really just to practice every single day. I found videos and books not helpful at all, right? To be honest, how I improve and how I really got better at trading is really just by being in the market every single day, practicing, right? And then that's and slowly it will hit a point where you have your light bulb moment, and you will start to be very more consistent at it. It's like this is why I always like to relate trading to skill sets. You won't get better in cooking or in basketball just by reading videos. I mean, watching videos and reading books, right? I mean, you can read and watch like 20,000 videos and stuff, but if you don't actually go to the court, you don't actually go to the kitchen to put those knowledge you have into practice, you're not gonna be good at basketball no matter how many videos or books that you watch. That's just how it is. It's the same thing for trading, right? You gotta really just be practicing the market every single day, right? Absorbing all the information, have accumulate the experience. That's how you're gonna get better. Okay, there's no shortcut to this, by the way. In what time frames do you identify patterns? Oh yeah, no, a lot, right? I trade all time frames to be honest. So this is generally what I use for my time frames, right? On the for key levels, I look for the 4-hour, daily, and the weekly chart. All right. So you have the 4-hour time frame, you have the daily time frame, and then you have the weekly time frame for my charts. Right. That's where I look for my levels. Okay. And to identify intraday patterns, I use 1 minute to 1 minute or 5 minute. Most, I use at most, right? I sometimes use 10 minutes for intraday, right? But mostly 1 minute or 5 minute. Entries always on the 1 minute. That's what I do. You see the pattern of the 5 minute. Okay, look. Sometimes when I use more of higher time frames after lunch because there's a lot of candlesticks happening, right? So if you use a higher time frame, the price action becomes a lot more consolidated, right? So you can see there's less candlesticks, so you can see patterns better in a sense. But if you look at this on the 1 minute, this shit is messy. I mean, it's not as nice looking, right? If you compare this to the 5 minute, 5 minute looks a lot nicer, Don't you guys agree? If you look at the 10 minute, 10 minute looks a lot nicer too, right? But there has to be a balance, right? You go all the way to the 30-minute chart and stuff, like damn, what the fuck is this, like it's too little candles, There has to be a balance. 1 minute, too many candles, right? It gets a little bit confusing. 5 minute, just the right amount, for a ticker that's just straight for the day itself, right? It's just the right amount, When you enter the trade, do you watch level 2? No, I don't. To be honest, no, I don't really watch the tape or level 2. I think there can be a lot of manipulation happening on the tape and level 2, right? I mean, I know there are some people that use the tape to trade. I don't do it. I just use to watch the walls. But I mean, sometimes the walls can be spoofed. They just put it down there so they can scale of retail traders accumulate cheap shares, and then the wall was removed, and then it starts squeezing up. So why does the level 2 and the tape actually really matters? You know what I mean? Right? I think all patterns are like this as well. Right? It doesn't matter if it's a cup and handle, this thing could have just filled too. You know what I mean? The best thing for you to do is to just have a clear plan, have a good uh have good risk management, and just stick to it. That's it. Right? Because that's the one that cannot be manipulated. Those are in your control. Right? The tape, the walls, the amount of buying pressure and stuff like that. I mean, it's useful information to know whether there's buyers stepping in and whatnot, but sometimes there can be buyers stepping in and suddenly knife, right? But then when it knives, you see on the tape, and then you'll be like, oh, but there was buyers present, but then there was the seller stepped in, so this is what the tape showed me. Like, okay, yeah, but I could see that even without the tape, right? There was buyers stepping in, but then the long wick form, the sellers came in. I could see that just from the candlesticks itself. You know what I mean? Right? You know what I mean? So I don't really use tape. I'm not saying that it's bad. I just personally I don't use it. I would say that it does blocks out a lot of noise for me because man, I have to look through so many fucking numbers every single time. The shit, it's a little too much for me. All right, Henry, your question right now. When did you first mention MCVT with your entries? It seems like when I get a notice, it's too late, and then I end up chasing the trade and it dumps. Now, Henry, listen, okay? Now, you're supposed to read or go through the onboarding. As I mentioned at the start of the channel. Sorry, at the start of the session over here. All right? And the onboarding over here, okay, I don't know when or how long you've been here, but this, okay, I'm sorry, this is trading rules. Sorry, my bad. This over here pretty much explains to you how you read my alerts, or how you understand my alerts. Green sidebar, generated by alert, but you still have to read the text in the message. Orange sidebar is an update. So for those of you guys over here who added MCVT, when I posted this over here, right? Like say aim for 7 to 10. I'm not telling you guys to buy it over here and aim for 7 to 10. This is not a buy alert. I've really been explicit, very clear about this. Like if you do not read the stuff, you probably wouldn't know. But then there's no excuse because I think every single day I keep posting this to tell you guys to watch this because I covered this over here as well. If you want to use this as information to just take your own position and trade it, I think that's fine, right? But don't expect me to update you about what needs to be done because my entries on the 460 break. If you had it at 580s or even $6, your stop loss plan is very different from mine. My stop loss can be at 460. If you add at $7 for stop loss, or sorry, if you add at 6 plus 580 for stop loss at 460, that is way too wide. Doesn't mean that you cannot take it, doesn't mean you cannot use my stuff as guidance over here, but this is not an entry alert. So if you add on this post and it drops and you're red, right? That's because you chased the move, right? And you didn't pay attention. Right? Because you cannot expect me to kind of update you guys on what you guys are doing because I'm updating on what I'm doing. Okay, you can add over here. You can see it's still going to be profitable for you, but you have to manage your own plan because it's not my plan. My plan is my entry price and my risk plan is going to be very different from you because I added it over here. You add it over here. It's going to be very different. So if you want to add off the orange alert and stuff, you need to have your own plan. If you don't know what you're doing, my suggestion for you is just avoid. And just focus on the alerts, on the green ones. So if you ask me when I first mentioned MCVT, I mentioned this at 11:58 a.m. Eastern. Over here. Over here. The breakout didn't happen until 3:05 p.m. Eastern. So in 4 hours time. 3 hours. So you have more than enough time to prepare for this move over here. It doesn't mean that I'm in. I'm waiting for this to break 460, which again, if you read the onboarding, it's all mentioned over here. Right? So that's all I can say. Got it, Henry? Got it? Yeah, no? You understand? Okay, got it. Good job, good stuff. When scanning the chart, sometimes you range from giving daily key level breaks and span to weekly chart breaks. What's your thought process here, generally speaking? So if I can't really remember any example right on the spot right now, but if I feel like the daily chart is very choppy, there's too many wicks, there's not much key levels, there's not much, point of interest and stuff, then it's too much noise, right? Essentially speaking, then I use the weekly chart. Because the weekly chart is there's a lot more consolidated action. Remember, right? 1 minute means that this is every minute, every candle represents 1 minute of price action. If I go to the daily, it means that every candle represents 1 day of price action. But if I go to the weekly chart, one candle represents 1 week of 5 days of price action over here. Right? So this is the Monday's open, this is the Friday's close. Right? So it is a lot more consolidated. Right? I'll probably have better I would say I'll have better information over here. Like you see, maybe I could say this is the weekly breakout level over here because there is a lot of rejection on this level here at 388. And for this note, I'll just probably say, 390, right? 390, for example, okay? And then you see MCVT on so over here, right? This is a 390 level. So you can see right over here, MCVT broke up from 390, right? Over here, it rejected a little bit again. It broke up from 390, right? But you can see the breakout didn't sustain very well over here. Okay, but you can see how the price was rejecting this 390 a lot, and then when it broke out, it went and it had a very nice candle. You see what I mean, right? It didn't really continue, okay, because again, first off, this move over here, MCVT did not have news, and it was already running from $2 to 4 plus. I mean, it's not really sustainable, right? But you could see after that, after it pulled back and consolidated and stuff, you see this 390 break. You see how nice it is. You see how perfect it is. Right, the thing breakout over here, retested this on the 390, you add on this candle, right, and then price went all the way to 460, which is the next key level for me. But it's a nice scalp, no? Yeah. So yeah, I mean the key levels are there. It doesn't mean that every single time it breaks out it's gonna go crazy, right? But at least you know, right? If let's say you plan to be adding, maybe you plan to be adding, let's say maybe this thing hits here and goes down, right? And then you want to add only a 384, but you know that 390 is a daily resistance level. Then you'll be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna wait because you know that this is it. This is the resistance level. All right. A quick follow-up question. Can you quickly explain how to use buy market, buy as, sell market, sell bid when you're trading during PM normal hours? Okay. All right. So let me just put it simple for you guys, okay? Now, market orders only for market hours. All right? So 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. All right, those are for market orders, okay? Timing force, the timing force for that, it has to be date. This is for market hours. Okay? No, there's no way, right? Market orders only work for market hours, 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Timing force you gotta use is date. Now for limit, okay, limit orders, it works for all market hours. All right, it works for all market hours. So basically from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. Timing force has to be EXT, depending on what broker you use, EXT, or you have to enable that feature, enable trading, enable outside regular hours, depending on what broker you're using. I think I've already covered this in the onboarding over here, right? Is this what you're looking for? This one, these two? This is what you're looking for? This is what you're looking for? Yeah, so it's all here. Market order, limit order provides price control because it's a lot more strict about the entry price you want to get, right? Only fills the value you set or lower, but this one is quicker to fill. So generally better for very, very volatile stocks, right? Will generally be filled for market order. For limit order orders, not all your orders might not be filled. Maybe if you you trade big, right? You want to buy 20,000 shares, maybe only like 12,000 or like 10,000 might be filled. But market order will fill everything. But you might get higher price, right? You see there's some pros and cons over here. Okay. So and then on what basis do you leave runners? Because like if you hit a new point at scale, is it more probable that a stock is gonna crash? Not really. A stock is gonna crash when the stock's gonna crash, right? If the stock is not losing trend, then how can we say it's crashing? Right? For me, if the stock crashes, then I'll say the trend is done. I'll close off the rest of my position. But if the stock don't crash, it's just a pullback and it's still hitting a trend, why would you say that's a crash? You wouldn't know it's a crash until it crashes, right? RD, isn't it? You can't say the stock's gonna crash just because it make new highs. It only crashed after you see it crash, right? Which is why I keep telling you guys, right? Do not try to anticipate price action because you do not know what's going to happen in the future. You cannot control the price action as well, so just react to it. That's all you can do. That's the best you can do. I mean, if you can see the future though, hey, let me know what's going to run on Monday, huh? But if you can't, react to it. Do not anticipate because looking like it's going to crash doesn't mean it's going to crash, right? Once it crashes, then you react to it. You cannot tell me that you know it's going to crash, right? After you see it happen. When before, you don't know what like you see over here. People think this is fucking done, right? You think it hits new highs, it's done. Is it done? It's not. You would, so don't react, don't anticipate, right? React to it. That's the best you can do because you cannot control the price action at all. Who was your mentor? I had a few, right? But I honestly I think they're no longer active anymore. And really, I would say that the learning experiences and accumulation and the experiences along the way that I started trading to now, that was the best mentor that I have from my experience. Yeah, so MCVT was trending on the 21 EMA 5 minutes since noon yesterday. Then yeah, trade off the trend then. Right? It's starting to establish a trend. Right? You have a very clear trend over here being established, right? Then trade off it, right? You can take this entries over here on this downstream breakout, right? You can take your entries over here at $4, have your stop loss under 375, right? And then just write the trend. You can, I mean, you see right now this is still holding on to this 21 EMA trend line. It's been holding on. So yeah. And for the support and resistance levels, are we looking at candles with full body under or over that level to make sure? It depends. It depends, right? If there is so for me, right, if I see like see right here, I mean, this is not, I mean, I need to find a very good example for you, okay? So you see right over here, right? There is a combination of body and wicks, correct? If I were to use this, sure, you know, it kind of makes sense too. But if I were to use this thing is a lot more relevant. So for me, 220, right, makes a lot more sense. Even though some of them is the top of the wick, some of them is the top of the body, right? It's because this thing has more price action separation. It's a higher key point of it level. It's a higher key level. 220, you know, this is big over here. I mean, you can see, right? Let me show you guys this, okay? Can you guys see how crazy this went after we reclaimed 220 over here? Do you see that? You see? Just went up all the way. Do you add right after the breakout of candle at 5? No, I never ever wait for pullbacks. I don't think you guys should ever wait for pullbacks as well. I mean, sure, leave some room for pullbacks, but don't wait for pullbacks, right? Leave room for pullbacks, but do not wait for pullbacks. But I think I've explained this yesterday during the trade review. If you did not watch it, please go back and read it or watch it again. I've explained this during the trade review yesterday, right? And recorded reviews. I've uploaded this as well, right? But I'm just gonna go through it again. Okay. So now when I trade the breakouts, I'm always looking at the 1 minute chart. All right. And the 1 minute chart tells me second. The 1 minute chart tells me what I'm actually looking at, right? When the candle's gonna close, so on and so forth. So I'm looking at the 460 break over here. And I explained this yesterday already. If you want to go through, you can go through yesterday's session. All right. Now, look, I have my time frame on this, right? I have my time frame over here. I know my timing. I have a timing over here. All group brokers should have that. Webull have that. IBKR have that. Thinkorswim have that as well. I don't think you have it for Robinhood because they're not good for day trading. They're a good broker, don't get me wrong, but for day trading wise, they're not. Okay, they're not there yet. So this thing has a timer over here, right? And let's say this thing candle breaks out at, for example, 10:58.50. So you have 10 more seconds for the candle to close to confirm the breakout. Now, if I see that this is such a huge breakout, and I feel like in the next 10 seconds, this thing is not going to close under 460, what's wrong with adding first? I mean, what's the difference? Do you guys understand? Like, see, right now, last 5 seconds, right? If I feel like this last 5 seconds, the price is not going to go down under 460, maybe it's at 480s and stuff. I don't feel like it's going to drop 20 cents in the last 5 seconds. And when the 5 seconds ends, it's going to close above 460, which is going to confirm the breakout. What's wrong with adding over here? Isn't it the same? Right? So you don't need to wait. Right? You don't need to wait. If you have the timer, obviously if this thing is at, maybe it breaks out over here at 10:59.10. So I have to wait 50 seconds for this to close to confirm, then I can't do it. Right? What I could probably start a smaller size position, in case it just starts going crazy, at least I still have some skin in the game, right? And then, if let's say during this 50 seconds, it just consolidates over here and then it closes, then I can size in. But I'll just take some small just in case. But then this small size, if let's say the candle goes back under 460, I'm going to close it off because there's no breakout. I got it preemptively. But if it's left 10 seconds, right? I mean, price is not going to just fucking drop in the next 5 seconds, So yeah. What time do you look for setups? Anytime. I mean, whenever there is something moving, I'm looking at it. But generally, pre-market, whatever runs in pre-market. So pre-market is where you have your first set of tickers to put in the watch list to focus on trades. Because pre-market is where tickers move, whether with or without news. And when they've been moving for the entire pre-market from 4 p.m. all the way to 9:30, right? You have enough candles formed on the chart to form a setup, right? You can't tell me that there's a setup just because you see a candle like this. You know what I mean? When you see a candle like this, shit, right? When you see a candle pop up like that, you can't tell me that that's a setup. I mean, what the fuck is this even? You know what I mean? You can't tell me this is a setup just because you see a candle popping like this. But after a while, there's more candlesticks form, right? Then you see over here, I waited for the whole day and then I realized, okay, there is a cup and handle setup. But how long did it take me to form this? Hours, right? So you take that hours, you put it from pre-market start all the way to market open, 9:30. You have 4 p.m. to 9:30, which is like 5 hours of data in pre-market being formed for you to form a watch list to look for setups from market open. Right? If we're talking about news pop, then that's a completely different strategy. Because news pops really is about recognizing whether the ticker has that explosive potential, which takes a bit of experience as well. I would say that for that, then reading the tape is very important, right? Because you got to know whether the bias is stepping in or whatnot. When you say you're looking for this, what do you look out for? Price pulling back to a key level, maybe an EMA or a key level on a daily chart, or my key level marked out, forming a wick with buying pressure, then yes, I'll look for dips over there. Or it could be our VWAP as well, right? If we look at what's that one? LIDR, right? Look at this 1 minute chart. Okay, because you can see right over here, we formed a double bottom, price went up. I took a bit of dip over here, scalped it all the way up. Right, same thing over here, price went down over here, right? See, price went down over here, huge selling pressure on this. Okay, and then price formed 3 wicks, right? See, price over here formed like 3 wicks forming, and then the bullish candle over here. This could be a dip buy, right? Or even over here, this could be a dip buy. And then, you keep it stops as per the plan, right? And even this, I mean honestly, MCVT had one very good example. So look at this. On this very candle, price attempted to break out, but price got squeezed down, right? You look at this real time, yeah? Because again, when we trade, we look at the candles forming like this, right? No reason to try to anticipate what's going to happen because that is not going to happen in real life. Okay, we gotta simulate actual trading experience. So I see the candle trying to break out over here, but then price knocked it all the way down. You see long upper wicks over here. Usually not a good sign. But the next candle was green. And then after that, it just recovered. It never died. That is where I know that all these shorts over here are about to be underwater. The more we continue to push, if let's say shorts do not take control of the stock, right? This thing is just gonna go fucking parabolic because all these shorts over here are gonna get squeezed out. And that's what happened. So you see, this could be a dip play. This could be a dip play, right? On the EMAs and stuff. Oh no, daily level break and daily expression level is the same stuff. I just like to switch up the words a little bit. Ain't no different. Yusuf made some profits by holding on to 3 p.m. But that's not a good habit to have though, Smano, right? Because if he thinks that this is fine, if he made profit on this name thinking that it's okay to hold on to plays, the next few plays he do this, he's gonna lose money, and then he's gonna give all his profits away for MCVT. For me, I'd much rather he took his loss, respected the plan from the initial point of view, right, and then re-enter on the 460 break, because that's the proper way to do things. Because sure, yeah, I do wish that he don't lose money on this, and he made profits over here, and he learned in moving forward to always respect the plan. But if because of this move over here, he made money, and then he think that it's okay to hold on to stocks even after the stop loss plan has been hit, right? Then in the long run, sure, he made money today, but in the long run, he's going to lose a lot of money. Bad habits to have over here. Oh, sorry. Friday recording. Sorry, my bad. Friday, I didn't record it. I usually don't record on Friday. I was doing a live recording. I mean, I was doing a live session explaining, but yeah, I explained it again just now, so it's the same thing. Would you add full amount, or is it better to scale in from the breakout? No, I usually add around full amount for the breakout. I mean, my stop loss is on 460, so I just pretty much added it. I was essentially I was scaling into this at 480s, 490s because I thought it was a very big breakout. We didn't have a lot of time left until the candle closed, so I was more than confident that this was going to be a nice breakout, right? And then when the candle closes above, I sized in a little bit more, and then it just halted up. Oh yes, yeah. So one thing Kiwi is mentioning is that the EMA values that Weibo uses and the EMA values that Thinkorswim uses might be different. Even the VWAP as well. Right, so whenever I say I'm stopping out from the 21 EMA or stop loss under 50 EMA, I'm using the Thinkorswim levels, not the Weibo one. Right, so if you are not sure, right, you can just ping me in chat or drop me a DM, and then I'll let you know what the numbers is. Okay, all right. So yeah, I think we have an hour up already. Okay, any further questions? I don't want to take this too long because if not, I have to